In the depths of space, where stars die silent deaths and civilizations rise and fall like cosmic tides, there exists a truth the Galactic Council tried to erase. Some flames, once lit, can never truly be extinguished. 3 millennia ago, they came with their fleets of silver and their proclamations of peace. They spoke of order, of unity, of a galaxy where all species could thrive under their benevolent rule. But humanity, with its stubborn heart and defiant spirit, refused to kneel. So they burned our world, scattered our ashes across the void, and declared us extinct. They were wrong. Hidden in the shadows between stars, in forgotten corners of space where light fears to tread, we survived. We learned. We grew stronger. And now, as the Council celebrates 3,000 years of unopposed dominion, they are about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology or our numbers. It was our memory. The reckoning begins now. Admiral Zara Chun floated in the command center of the Vengeance, her weathered hands gripping the armrests of her captain's chair as she stared at the holographic display before her. The blue-white projection showed the Kepler 442 system, home to the Galactic Council's newest colonial expansion. 17 worlds, each one stripped of its native life and rebuilt according to Council specifications. Each one a monument to their supposed superiority. Ma'am, long-range sensors are picking up increased Council patrol activity near the outer rim, reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb, his young face illuminated by the soft glow of his console. 3 destroyer squadrons, moving in standard defensive formations. Chen nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the display. At 68, she was one of the last humans born on Earth before the burning. She had been 5 years old when the Council's fleet appeared in Earth's sky, their massive ships blotting out the sun like mechanical vultures. She remembered her mother's hands shaking as she bundled Zara into the evacuation pod, remembered the last words her father spoke before the transport bay doors sealed shut. Remember who you are, little star. Remember what they took from us. She had remembered. For 63 years, she had remembered. Signal the fleet, Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging beneath the surface. All ships are to maintain radio silence until we reach the Neptune staging area. This is it, people. 3,000 years of preparation come down to the next 72 hours. Around her, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. These weren't the desperate refugees who had fled Earth's destruction. These were the children of the void, raised in hidden colonies scattered across the galaxy's edge, trained from birth for this moment. Each one of them carried the DNA of humanity's survivors. But, more importantly, each carried the burning desire for justice that had sustained their people through millennia of exile. The Vengeance was itself a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Built in the shadow of a dying star in the outer veil, it incorporated technology stolen, salvaged, and reverse-engineered from a dozen different Council species. Its hull was forged from quantum-locked titanium composite, nearly indestructible and capable of withstanding the gravitational forces of a black hole. Its weapons systems were a hybrid of human innovation and alien technology, modified and improved until they surpassed anything the Council had ever fielded. But the ship's greatest weapon wasn't its plasma cannons or its quantum torpedoes. It was the crew inside it. Admiral, came a voice from the communications station. Chun turned to see Commander Sarah Kowalski, a tall woman with intricate tattoos covering her arms, each mark representing a fallen human colony discovered over the years. We're receiving transmission from Ghost Squadron. Captain Morrison reports all stealth frigates are in position. Chun smiled, a predatory expression that would have chilled the blood of any Council member who saw it. Excellent. What about our friends in the asteroid field? The mining platforms are ready, ma'am. They've been preparing for 18 months. When the time comes, they'll know what to do. The mining platforms were perhaps the most audacious part of the plan. For 2 decades, human infiltrators had posed as various alien species, working their way into positions throughout Council space. They had become miners, technicians, service workers, traders, invisible to the Council's notice, but perfectly positioned to strike when the moment came. The platforms in the Kepler 442 system appeared to be standard asteroid mining operations, staffed by Altarian workers. In reality, they were weapons platforms crewed by humans who had spent their entire lives preparing for this day. Time to intercept? Chen asked. 47 hours, 32 minutes, Webb replied. The Council convoy should arrive at Kepler 442, C right on schedule. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to remember, not just her own memories, but the collective memory of her people. The archives they had maintained, the stories they had passed down, the careful documentation of every atrocity the Council had committed in the name of galactic peace. 3,000 years of oppression, of species enslaved or eliminated, of worlds strip-mined and repopulated according to Council whims. The humans weren't the only ones who had suffered. The Thraxians had been reduced to slave labor after refusing to surrender their homeworld's mineral rights. The Zephyrian culture had been declared incompatible with galactic harmony and systematically erased, their people scattered and their language forbidden. The aquatic Nereidans had watched their ocean worlds drained and converted to standard atmosphere planets. But humanity was different. Humanity had been marked for complete extinction. The Council made one mistake, Chen said aloud, her voice carrying to every member of the bridge crew. They assumed that destroying Earth meant destroying us. They didn't understand that Earth was never our true home. Our home is wherever humans stand together and refuse to give up. The crew straightened at her words. These people had never seen Earth, would never breathe its air or feel its gravity. But they carried Earth within them, in their DNA, in their stories, in their unbreakable determination to see justice done. Status report from the inner colonies? Chen asked. Right on schedule, Admiral, Kowalski replied. New Beijing colony has completed construction of the manufacturing facilities. New Lagos has finished training the final wave of pilots. New Stockholm reports their research teams have successfully weaponized the Council's own nanobots. Chen nodded with satisfaction. The inner colonies were humanity's secret civilization, hidden in a cluster of rogue planets drifting between galaxies. For 3 millennia, they had grown and thrived while the Council believed humanity extinct. They had developed technologies the Council couldn't imagine, had trained armies the Council didn't know existed, had prepared for a war the Council thought would never come. And the Exodus archives? Safe and secure, ma'am. Every human settlement has complete copies. Even if we don't survive this, the truth will endure. The Exodus archives were perhaps humanity's greatest treasure, a complete record of human history, culture, and knowledge, along with detailed documentation of the Council's crimes. Copies existed in every human settlement, hidden in quantum storage devices that could survive the destruction of entire star systems. No matter what happened in the coming battle, humanity's story would not be lost again. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Command, Webb announced. It's Admiral Reyes. Chen straightened. Admiral Elena Reyes commanded the Second Fleet, currently positioned near the galactic rim. If she was breaking radio silence to contact Chen directly, it could only mean one thing. Put her through. The holographic display shimmered and reformed, showing the weathered face of Elena Reyes. Like Chen, she was one of the few survivors old enough to remember Earth. The two women had served together for over 40 years, planning and preparing for this moment. Zara, Reyes said without preamble. Our deep cover agents have confirmed it. The entire Council High Command will be at the Kepler 442 ceremony. All 12 species representatives, the Supreme Chancellor, even the Dam Keeper of the Sacred Flame. They're all going to be there to celebrate the anniversary of their perfect peace. Chen felt her heart race. This was beyond their most optimistic projections. The original plan had been to strike at the new colony as a symbol, to announce humanity's return to the galaxy. But if the entire Council leadership was present, how certain are we of this intelligence? Triple confirmed. Our asset inside the Chancellor's personal staff sent the guest list through 3 different channels. Zara, if we do this right, we don't just announce our return. We decapitate their entire government. The bridge fell silent. Every person present understood the magnitude of what Reyes was suggesting. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had ruled with absolute authority. Their 12-member species controlled every aspect of galactic civilization, from trade routes to technological development to which species were allowed to exist. The Supreme Chancellor wielded power that dwarfed the ancient Earth Emperors, and the High Command's decisions affected trillions of sentient beings across 100,000 worlds. What's the security situation? Chen asked. Heavy, but not impossible. They're expecting a ceremonial event, not a military action. Most of their fleet is positioned for show, not defense. Our infiltrators report the usual complement of ceremonial guards, but nothing that suggests they're expecting trouble. Chen stood and began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities and contingencies. The original mission parameters had been carefully calculated based on attacking a colonial ceremony with moderate security. But a gathering of the entire council leadership changed everything. Elena, if we do this, there's no going back. Win or lose, the galaxy will know we exist. Every human settlement, every hidden colony, every deep cover agent, all of it becomes a target. It already is, Zara. You know as well as I do that the Council's been getting suspicious. Their archaeological teams have been finding too many inconsistencies in the historical record. Their xenobiologists have been asking questions about genetic samples that don't match their databases. It's only a matter of time before they start putting the pieces together. Chen knew Reyes was right. For the past 50 years, there had been signs that the Council was beginning to suspect that humanity's extinction hadn't been as complete as they believed. Survey teams had found ruins that didn't match the official records. Trade inspectors had noticed cargo manifests with subtle inconsistencies. Deep space monitoring stations had detected energy signatures that didn't correspond to any known Council technology. The humans had been careful, but 3,000 years was a long time to maintain perfect secrecy. Every trade mission, every supply run, every recruitment operation carried the risk of exposure. Their cover was already beginning to unravel. What does Command recommend? Chen asked. Full deployment. First, second, and third fleets, plus all available special operations units. We hit them with everything we have, all at once. Maximum impact, maximum psychological effect. Chen closed her eyes and thought of her father's words. Remember who you are. Remember what they took from us. They had taken Earth. They had taken her parents, her childhood, her people's place in the galaxy. They had condemned humanity to exile and tried to erase them from history entirely. But they had failed to take the one thing that mattered most, humanity's refusal to surrender. Elena, Chen said, opening her eyes. Signal all fleet commanders. We're changing the mission parameters. Full strike package, all available assets. Target priority is now the complete elimination of Council leadership. On the display, Reyes smiled, the same predatory expression that Chun had worn moments before. Roger that, Admiral. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor's been mine, Elena. See you on the other side. The transmission ended, and Chun turned to face her bridge crew. Young faces, determined faces, faces that had never known defeat because they had never been given the chance to try. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, we're about to make history. Not just for humanity, but for every species in this galaxy that dreams of freedom. The Council has had 3,000 years to prove they deserve to rule. Instead, they've proven that power without justice is tyranny, and tyranny is a cancer that spreads until it's cut out. She paused, letting her words sink in. Our ancestors fled Earth with nothing but hope and determination. They built a civilization in the darkness between stars. They raised children who had never seen sunlight, but never stopped believing in the dawn. And now, finally, that dawn is here. The crew responded with a chorus of acknowledgments, their voices steady and sure. These weren't just soldiers following orders. These were the children of humanity's dream, and they would not be denied. Set course for Kepler 442, Chen commanded. And signal the fleet. The age of the Council ends in 72 hours. As the Vengeance turned toward its destiny, Chen allowed herself one last moment of reflection. Somewhere in the void behind them lay the ruins of Earth, cold and dead for 3 millennia. But ahead lay something far more important, the future that Earth's children would build among the stars. The Council had tried to write humanity out of history. Instead, they had created their own executioners. The mining platform designated Epsilon 7 drifted silently through the asteroid field, its massive mechanical arms extracting precious metals from the floating rocks with methodical precision. To any observer, it appeared to be exactly what its registration claimed: a standard Altarian mining operation, staffed by 12 workers and supervised by a council-approved overseer. The reality was far different. Captain Jake Morrison crouched in the platform's hidden command center, buried deep within the station's core and shielded from all but the most invasive scans. Around him, 11 other humans moved with quiet efficiency, their practiced hands working over consoles that bore no resemblance to standard mining equipment. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, whispered Sergeant Amy Harrison from the sensor station. "Council patrol craft, Righteousness. Destroyer class, standard crew complement of 43. Morrison nodded and checked his chronometer. 36 hours until the main fleet arrived. They had maintained their cover for 18 months, playing their roles as simple asteroid miners while secretly converting the platform into a weapons system that could cripple a capital ship. "Any sign they're suspicious?" he asked. "Negative. Standard patrol pattern, no deviation from scheduled route. They'll pass within 5,000 kilometers in approximately 12 minutes. Morrison had been born on New Canberra, a hidden colony established in the Outer Rim territories nearly 2 centuries ago. Like every human child, he had been raised on the stories of Earth's destruction and humanity's exile. Unlike most, he had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment the Resistance could offer: deep cover infiltration. For 3 years, he had undergone surgical and genetic modification to pass as an Altarian. The process was excruciating. His bone structure altered, his skin pigmentation changed, neural implants installed to mimic Altarian brainwave patterns. When it was complete, even medical scanners registered him as a member of the Council's most trusted client species. The other 11 members of his team had undergone similar transformations. Some posed as Altarians, others as various Council species. Together, they represented decades of preparation and sacrifice, all for this moment. "Status of the primary weapon?" Morrison asked. "Quantum disruptor is charged and ready," replied Technician David Kim, his fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "We've got 1 shot, maybe 2 before the power core overloads. But 1 shot should be enough." The quantum disruptor was a masterpiece of human engineering, based on captured Council technology, but improved far beyond the original design. Instead of the Council's crude energy weapons that simply overwhelmed shields through brute force, the human version operated on quantum entanglement principles. It could phase shift through conventional shielding and deliver its payload directly to a target's hull. What about the secondary systems? All green. Missile pods are loaded with quantum torpedoes, point defense systems are online, and the stealth field generator is functioning within normal parameters. Morrison allowed himself a moment of pride. 18 months ago, Epsilon 7 had been exactly what it appeared to be: a simple mining platform. Through careful planning and incredible ingenuity, his team had transformed it into one of the most powerful weapons in human space, all while maintaining the illusion of harmless industrial work. The conversion hadn't been easy. Every component had to be smuggled in through normal supply channels, disguised as mining equipment or personal effects. The quantum disruptor's core components had arrived as geological survey instruments. The torpedo launchers had been hidden inside, or processing machinery. Even the command center itself had been excavated using mining equipment during normal operations, the removed material carefully recycled to avoid suspicion. "Morrison," came a whisper from communications specialist Rachel Torres. "We're receiving coded transmission from the Vengeance. Fleet is on schedule. Admiral Chen confirms target package includes full Council leadership." Morrison felt his pulse quicken. The original mission had been ambitious enough: announce humanity's survival by striking at a Council colony. But the opportunity to eliminate the entire Council leadership was unprecedented. "Any word on secondary targets?" "Affirmative. Intelligence confirms the ceremonial fleet will include the flagship Eternal Harmony and 12 escort vessels. Total enemy strength estimated at just over 2,000 personnel." Morrison did quick calculations in his head. The human fleet would be outnumbered roughly 3-1, but the element of surprise would level those odds considerably. More importantly, the Council ships would be positioned for ceremony, not combat. Their formation would be optimized for visual impact, not tactical advantage. Time to close, he asked. 35 hours, 47 minutes, Torres replied. The ceremony is scheduled to begin at 0800 local time, with the main address at 10:30. Morrison nodded. The timing was critical. The human fleet would arrive during the ceremony itself, when the council leadership would be gathered in one location and the defending ships would be at their most vulnerable. All right, people, he said quietly. You know the drill. We maintain normal operations until the fleet arrives. Standard shifts, standard communications protocols. As far as the council is concerned, we're just another boring mining platform in a system full of boring mining platforms. The team acknowledged his orders and returned to their duties. Morrison settled into his captain's chair and activated the external cameras, studying the vista beyond the platform's hull. The Kepler 442 asteroid field was massive, containing billions of rocks ranging from pebble-sized debris to planetoids several kilometers across. The Council had been mining it for over a century, extracting rare metals essential for their advanced technology. What they didn't realize was that 17 of the mining platforms scattered throughout the field were actually human weapons installations. Each platform had a specialized role. Some, like Epsilon 7, carried heavy weapons designed to engage capital ships. Others were equipped with fighter bays, ready to deploy swarms of unmanned attack drones. Still others carried electronic warfare equipment capable of jamming Council communications across an entire star system. Morrison's personal favorite was Platform Delta 3, which appeared to be a simple fuel depot, but actually contained enough antimatter to crack a moon. When the time came, Delta 3 would position itself near the Council's flagship and detonate, creating a miniature supernova that would eliminate the enemy command structure in a single blinding flash. The human miners weren't the only ones preparing for battle. Throughout Council space, thousands of deep cover agents were moving into position. Some worked in shipyards and manufacturing facilities, ready to sabotage key infrastructure. Others held positions in the Council's military and civilian government, prepared to feed intelligence to the human fleet or sow confusion at critical moments. The scope of the operation was staggering. For 3,000 years, humanity had been playing the longest game in galactic history, slowly infiltrating every aspect of Council society while building their own civilization in the shadows. The resources invested in deep cover operations alone would have been enough to build 100 colonies. But it had all been worth it for this moment. Captain, Harrison called out. The patrol ship is changing course. They're heading directly for us. Morrison felt ice form in his stomach. How long until intercept? 6 minutes at current speed. They're transmitting standard inspection codes. Morrison's mind raced. Random inspections weren't uncommon, but the timing was unfortunate. If the Council patrol discovered their true nature now, it would compromise the entire operation. Torres, what's our cover status? All false identification is in place. Mining logs show normal production for the past month. Crew manifest matches Council records. We should pass any standard inspection. Should wasn't good enough. Morrison knew that Council inspectors were thorough, and the modifications they had made to the platform would be difficult to hide under close scrutiny. Options? He asked. We could eliminate them, suggested Kim. The quantum disruptor could vaporize their ship before they get close enough to scan us properly. Morrison considered it. Destroying a Council patrol ship would certainly solve their immediate problem, but it would also alert the authorities that something was wrong in the Kepler 442 system. The main fleet was still more than 30 hours away. If the alarm went out now, the entire operation would be compromised. No, he decided. We stick to the plan. We're just a boring mining platform full of boring miners doing boring work. Harrison, keep monitoring their approach. Kim, make sure all weapon systems are powered down to standby. I don't want so much as a stray energy reading to give us away. What if they want to board us? Torres asked. Morrison's jaw tightened. Council boarding procedures were invasive and thorough. Even with their genetic modifications and forged documents, there was always a risk that something would give them away. If they board us, we play our parts perfectly. We're tired miners who just want to finish our shift and get paid. We complain about the working conditions, ask about news from home, maybe try to sell them some of the rare minerals we've been finding. He paused and looked around the room. And, if that doesn't work, we fall back to Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was the euphemism the Resistance used for martyrdom. If their cover was blown and capture was imminent, they would activate the platform's self-destruct system, taking the Council patrol with them. It wasn't an outcome any of them wanted, but it was preferable to compromising the main operation. Incoming transmission, Torres announced. Audio only. Put it through. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the command center. Morrison recognized it as the artificial translator used by the Zinthari, one of the Council's enforcer species. The Zinthari were known for their ruthless efficiency and complete loyalty to Council authority. Epsilon 7 mining platform. This is Council patrol vessel righteousness. Prepare for standard inspection. Lower your shields and submit your operational logs for review. Morrison activated the external communication system, carefully modulating his voice to match his Altarian identity. Roger, righteousness. We're transmitting our logs now. Fair warning, it's been a pretty routine month out here. Not much to report except the usual rock grinding. Understood. We will dock with your platform in 3 minutes. Have your crew ready for identity verification. Morrison cut the transmission and turned to his team. You heard them. Everyone assumes their cover identities. Remember your backstories. Remember your training. As of right now, we are exactly who our documents say we are. The next 3 minutes passed with agonizing slowness. Morrison watched on the external cameras as the sleek Council destroyer approached, its hull gleaming with the polished perfection that marked all Council technology. The ship was beautiful in its own way, a fusion of organic curves and geometric precision that spoke to the advanced civilization that had built it. It was also a symbol of everything humanity had lost. Docking clamps engaged, Harrison reported. They're requesting permission to board. Granted, Morrison replied. He stood and smoothed his mining coveralls, transforming himself from a military commander into a tired industrial worker. Places, everyone. And remember, we're just here to do a job. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss, and 3 figures emerged. Morrison recognized the lead inspector as a Zinthari, its tall, insectoid frame covered in the blue and silver uniform of Council security. Behind it came 2 Altarians, their pale features showing the typical boredom of routine bureaucrats. I am Inspector Vazkorth, the Zinthari announced, its translator giving its words a clipped, emotionless quality. This is a standard compliance review. We will examine your operational logs, inspect your mining equipment, and verify crew credentials. Morrison stepped forward and offered what he hoped was a convincing smile. Welcome aboard, Inspector. I'm Foreman Kelv Morrison. We're honored to have the Council's attention, though I have to warn you, we're pretty boring out here. The inspection proceeded exactly as Morrison had hoped, slowly, thoroughly, and without incident. The Zinthari examined their mining equipment with professional interest, noting the impressive efficiency ratings that their modified systems produced. The Altarian bureaucrats reviewed personnel files and operational logs with the kind of methodical attention to detail that made Council administration famous throughout the galaxy. For 2 hours, Morrison and his team played their roles perfectly. They complained about equipment failures, joked about the isolation of deep space mining, and answered every question with the casual competence of experienced workers. It almost worked. Foreman, Inspector Vazkorth said as the review neared its end. Your geological survey data indicates you have been mining Sector 7 Alpha for the past 3 weeks. However, our long-range sensors show minimal excavation activity in that region. Morrison felt sweat begin to form beneath his modified skin. Sector 7 Alpha was where they had positioned one of their hidden torpedo launchers, disguised as a mineral extraction site. We've been having trouble with the automated excavators, he replied, thinking quickly. Keep breaking down in the heavy gravity fields near the larger asteroids. We've been doing most of the work manually, which slows things down considerably. The Zinthari's compound eyes fixed on Morrison with unblinking intensity. I see. Perhaps we should examine this equipment firsthand. My sensors indicate there are significant power readings emanating from that sector. Morrison's heart hammered against his ribs. If the Zinthari investigated Sector 7 Alpha, they would discover the torpedo launcher within minutes. The weapon was too large and too sophisticated to pass as mining equipment under close inspection. Of course, Inspector, Morrison said. Though I should warn you, we've been having some pretty severe electromagnetic fluctuations out there. Something about the mineral composition is playing havoc with our instruments. You might want to use your ship's more advanced sensors instead of risking a close approach. It was a desperate gambit, but Morrison hoped that Council arrogance would work in their favor. Most Council species considered human-built equipment to be primitive and unreliable. Inspector Vascorth considered this for a moment. Very well. We will conduct a long-range scan from our vessel. If the readings are concerning, we will return for a more detailed inspection. Morrison nodded, trying to project calm confidence while his mind raced through contingencies. The torpedo launcher was designed to be stealthy, but it wasn't invisible. A detailed scan by military-grade sensors would reveal its true nature. The Zinthri and its companions returned to their ship, leaving Morrison and his team alone in the platform's common area. As soon as the airlock sealed, Morrison activated his communicator. All stations, code yellow, he whispered. Prepare for possible exposure. Code yellow meant that their cover was in jeopardy, but not yet blown. If Inspector Vascorth discovered the torpedo launcher, they would have perhaps 30 seconds before the Council patrol transmitted their findings to the system authorities. Morrison positioned himself near the platform's command center, ready to dash inside and activate their weapons if necessary. Around him, his team maintained their cover identities while discreetly moving to combat positions. Reading energy buildup from the Council ship, Harrison reported quietly. They're charging their main sensor array. Morrison held his breath as the scan commenced. The torpedo launcher was designed to resist exactly this kind of examination, its quantum shielding theoretically capable of fooling even military-grade sensors. But theory and practice were often different things, especially when lives hung in the balance. Seconds ticked by like hours. Morrison found himself remembering his childhood on New Canberra, the stories his grandmother had told him about Earth's final days. She had been one of the refugees, a young woman who had escaped in the last evacuation ships before the planet burned. Her descriptions of Earth's blue skies and green forests had seemed like fairy tales to a boy raised under artificial lights. Now he was fighting to ensure that Earth's children would see natural skies again. Scan complete, Harrison reported. Council ship is maintaining position. No change in alert status. Morrison allowed himself to breathe. Either the torpedo launcher's shielding had held, or the Zinthri had decided that the energy readings weren't worth investigating further. 5 minutes later, the Righteousness disengaged its docking clamps and resumed its patrol route. Inspector Vascorth's final transmission was brief and professional. Epsilon 7 cleared for continued operations. Next inspection scheduled for 6 months hence. Glory to the Council. As the destroyer disappeared into the asteroid field, Morrison finally allowed his shoulders to slump with relief. They had passed the test, but it had been far too close for comfort. That, said Kim, wiping sweat from his brow, was the longest 2 hours of my life. Morrison nodded, but his expression remained serious. It was a reminder that we can't afford any mistakes. In 33 hours, the real test begins, and there won't be any second chances. He activated the platform's internal communication system. All stations, this is the captain. Resume normal operations. And remember, we're just boring miners in a boring asteroid field doing boring work. But as Morrison returned to the hidden command center, his thoughts were anything but boring. In 33 hours, the human fleet would arrive, and 3,000 years of exile would finally come to an end. The Council had no idea what was coming for them. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak stood at the observation deck of the Eternal Harmony, gazing out at the ceremonial formation of Council ships that stretched across space like a constellation of manufactured stars. The massive flagship, over 6 kilometers in length, served as the mobile seat of galactic government, its elegant curves and gleaming hull representing 3 millennia of uninterrupted peace and prosperity. At least, that's what the official histories claimed. Vorthak belonged to the hegemony, the founding species of the Galactic Council, and its undisputed leaders for 3,000 years. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin that shifted color according to his emotional state, He cut an imposing figure even among the diverse collection of species that made up the council's leadership. The ceremony proceeds on schedule, Chancellor, reported his aide, a nervous Altarian named Kelthuris. All 12 high counselors have arrived, along with their full diplomatic retinues. The media networks are prepared to broadcast the celebration to every world in council space. Vorthak nodded, his skin taking on the deep purple hue that indicated satisfaction. Today marked the 3000th anniversary of the Council's perfect peace, the moment when the last resistance to galactic unity had been eliminated. The destruction of Earth had been regrettable, but necessary. The humans had refused every reasonable offer of integration, clinging to their primitive concepts of individual sovereignty and species independence. Their elimination had served as a powerful example to other species who might have harbored similar delusions. What is the status of the new colony? Vorthak asked. Construction proceeds ahead of schedule, Chancellor. The atmospheric processors have achieved 87% completion, and the first wave of settlers will arrive within 6 months. Within 2 years, Kepler 442, C will be a fully functional world, populated by loyal council citizens, and producing resources for the greater good. Vorthak's skin shifted to a pleased golden tone. The new colony represented everything the council had accomplished over the past 3 millennia. Where once there had been a barren rock orbiting a distant star, soon there would be cities, farms, and factories. The raw materials of an empty world would be transformed into prosperity for trillions of citizens across the galaxy. This was the Council's true gift to the universe: order, efficiency, and progress on a scale that no single species could have achieved alone. And the security situation? Vorthak inquired. Minimal concerns, Chancellor. Standard patrol sweeps have detected no anomalies. The local mining operations report normal productivity levels. Our intelligence services have identified no threats to council interests in this sector. Vorthak walked to the massive viewing portal that dominated the observation deck. Before him, arranged in perfect ceremonial formation, floated the symbols of council power. 12 escort vessels, each representing one of the member species, surrounded the eternal harmony in a complex geometric pattern that had been refined over centuries of similar celebrations. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering and art, their designs reflecting the unique aesthetic sensibilities of their creators while incorporating the standardized technology that made the Council fleet the most powerful force in galactic history. The Zenthari vessel Inexorable Justice gleamed with metallic precision, its angular lines speaking to that species' love of mathematical perfection. The Zephyrian ship Harmonic Convergence flowed with organic curves that see me.